Hello, good morning. Welcome to Wisdom from Menopause and Beyond with the attendant collie barking in the background, but there we
Yes,
go. So I'm Alison Theaker,
I'm Anne Hope.
and this morning we're joined by two fabulous guests. So that's Ildiko Sealey
Hello.
and Lucy Barnett.
Good
And
morning.
what we're going to do is we are going to, right, sorry, and Anne is going to go off and do the collie discipline, which is, may or may not work. Yeah, so this morning is great. We're just going to do one of our panel episodes and just kind of think about, the kind of challenges for women over 40 and how our expertise can help. So I think the best thing to do is if you each introduce yourself. So Ildiko, if you'd like to start and say who you are, what you do, how amazing you are, your fabulousness, and just kind of tell us about that.
Thank you. Let me polish my halo first then. Yes, so I am a determinational speaker. I support people who start a new business in later life, whatever later life means for you, to develop a good health routine in order to run your business as healthy as possible, because your business will only ever be as healthy as you. And I'm a proud public speaker. I'm happy to stand on stages or hold workshops to deliver my temple method, which is pretty much based around establishing that health routine for a better. It doesn't have to be business. It could be a side hustle. It could be a career. It could be just your life. And that's what I do.
Brilliant. And you have a great podcast, don't you?
Yes, I do. My podcast is called New Business in Later Life. So that very much concentrates on people who have started a new venture of some sort in the later stages of their life, whether they've been in business all their life or whether they've come from corporate. Although my audience, the people I wish to speak to are the ones I think who have come from or who are in corporate and are nursing a dream that they want to do something, or they've been doing something for some time, a little side hustle, even at work. I've had guests who did that and then want to make a business out of it. And I bring on guests who have similarly started a new business in later life, but have some expertise, especially in like the top needs of later life entrepreneurs, which is tends to be technology and mindset and so similar things. And then they come on as experts with experience and give advice to help people follow in our footsteps.
Brilliant. And,
Sounds fascinating. I'd be interested to sort of follow up on that as we go through the questions and things, because it sounds like a different slant. So that's really interesting. Thank you.
And Lucy, tell us what you do.
Hi everyone, I'm a style coach, and basically I help people to explore, develop and create their personal style, their personal brand in a way that really feels true to who they are. And I began this work when I was 29 and I was newly married and settling into a new country, and I found this work. And then now I'm 58, I'm post-menopause, I've got 3 grown-up children, I've got grey hair instead of brown. And I've gone through this evolution right alongside my clients, the people I work with, as I've evolved from that age to this age. And over the years, I've done all the roles. I've been a mum, a wife, sister, friend, style coach. I'm now a runner. And through it all, like learning to adapt through each phase of my life, as I've done with my clients as well. So, and what I learned early on, like, when I was 29, 30, is that personal style, personal branding, it's so much more than how we look and the clothes we wear. It's about taking care of yourself, how you speak to yourself and about yourself, how you feel in your own skin, and the message you share to yourself and others without actually speaking. And when we really feel like ourselves, I think we stand a little taller, things are a little bit clearer, and we move through life with a little bit more confidence. And it's just a confidence tool, if you like. I work mainly with women, but I work with men as well sometimes. Mainly women are in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond that, and helping them to use personal style really as a practical, supportive tool for confidence, clarity, and adapting as we go along these different phases. We change and evolve, don't we, as life goes on.
Yeah.
And people are navigating so many different things: menopause, body changes, career shifts, the things we're talking about, caring responsibilities, from children to parents, or all the other people in your life, and all these different, or maybe just wanting a fresh start and a fresh way of using this part of your life, but having it align with who you are on the inside. And it's not about trends, it's not about fashion. For me, it's about people believing in themselves, taking care of themselves, and just giving yourself permission to be, this is me, and this is how I want to express myself through this medium. And it's such a privilege to walk alongside people as they get this confidence and this clarity on who they are as they're getting older and what's next. So yeah, I absolutely love my work. Been doing it a long time.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. I think what I'm picking up from both of you, you both seem to be working at different points, but the thing is, it's bringing the you out and realizing how that good is. Whereas a lot of what comes from the media, whatever that is, and people that do these talks, is about becoming confidence, how to get confidence. And actually, you're saying it's already here. It's almost, the more we unmask, the more beautiful we become. In mind, body, intellect. It's
and it's trusting ourselves, isn't it? Trusting ourselves, like Ildiko's saying, trusting like you've got a dream, there's something that you want to do, trust that you can make that happen, you can make that work. And that trust coming from the inside and expressing it on the outside in whatever way that looks.
In whatever way. And it can be different in time, that what we did in our 20s, we want to recreate or build on, and you think, I don't do any of that. I'm really just that different person now, almost. So I think you both seem to be covering that from different angles. So it'll be interesting to see how we.
And I think it links to, we actually started our new kind of menopause redefined course earlier this week, and it was like, we were kind of talking about how as you go through your 40s, what you're doing is you're kind of unmasking, your hormones are unmasking who you are. And I kind of think that's kind of, it's a bit like what you're both talking about, is that we're becoming that authentic self, that we're not nicey, and as we call her, Lady Forgiveness, we're not being Lady Forgiveness anymore. We're just being who we are, whoever that is. And sometimes that is quite difficult when you unmask yourself, because people think, gosh, who is she? It can be a bit uncomfortable.
I mean, I for one, I certainly feel considerably more confident than I ever have. And look in the mirror, I mean, okay, I look very different. I probably look thinner, fitter than I've ever been in my entire life, but I'm obviously working on it. But that confidence is showing, and I think it's like that circle, because the more confident I am, the more I work on it, and then that feeds the confidence again. So that lovely sort of life circle, well, within me anyway.
I think there's that like putting the mask of confidence on, which is a mask, which we do have to do from time to time. But it's also that other thing that actually we genuinely feel this, and we can genuinely say, no, that isn't me, and yes, that is me. And I love this sort of body change, Lucy, you were talking about as body changes. And I can remember, I think it was Wayne Dyer that said, I've had many bodies in my time, and people are thinking he's being really spiritual, he's had many lives or whatever. And he said, when I was 6 months old, I had this body, and when I was 18 months old, I had this body. And we prep people to have these different bodies, but suddenly when you get to be 50, you have to keep that one.
But it's it's kind of it is this evolution, isn't it? And a lot of acceptance. And like I never coloured my hair, so I did have brown hair, and now it's grey, but it's gone through, but there are people now embracing, like, is it time for them to embrace it or not? And it's so personal. I think that's the thing for me. It's so personal. There is no you should at this age, or you have to at any age. It's like, what do you want to do? How do you want to embrace it? And at the end of the day, this body that we were given at birth is our home, isn't it? It's our home throughout our life, and it evolves and changes, but it is where we live, and we can't change. We can't have another one. We can't move house. We can't move house. We've only got what we were given.
I love that analogy. It's like when you look back and you think, what happened to that bit of furniture? Oh, that broke on that bit, and that changed. And it's kind of like,
I just don't like that anymore. I go out and do that.
I'm going to change the colour scheme. That's good. So great. So our first question we're going to talk about is, what are the most common challenges for women over 40? So in your work, what do you see? What are the most common things that, if you have clients, we're working with women over 40, what do they come to you with? What do they express?
I think for me it is the body. A lot of the time it's the body, the colouring, the changes, the how their body is adapting as they age. And a lot of that is like acceptance. And I think sometimes we confuse acceptance and resignation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
by I accept it doesn't mean I have to stay here. Like Ildiko is talking about exercise and looking after her body and, being healthy. But I sometimes have to accept her, this is me now. And what am I going to do next? How am I going to move forward? And I think sometimes we confuse acceptance and resignation. Think like if I accept it, that means I have to stick with it, or I'm resigned to it. So I think that for me is like that kind of the body changes, how the bodies are changing, the different roles, and how we might have defined ourselves in a role. I'm sure Ildiko finds this as well, like as parents or in our job, etc. And that changes. Maybe that like my kids have all left home, or maybe the job ends, or whatever it is. It's these changes and and I think these expectations of I should, like you're saying, Anne, about I should be this, I should be that. But who says it's really for us to? I think people in my work are starting to explore. Well, who am I now, and how do I want to use this medium? And so I think it's these changes and you know yeah, adapting to those and really thinking, well, what am I going to do next? You don't have to go back, you can go forward. It will look different, but that doesn't mean it's less. Looking different. Different doesn't mean less, does it? Different means different. And I think that's a really big thing.
So
and
it's
exploring
changed.
this side of their life. Yeah.
I think what I notice as well is other people's expectations. Now you have to. Now it is. This is a meaning of a success. Very very simply. I mean, I've got a boat, and people say to me, "Do you go to France on it?" And they go, "No, not anymore. I used to go to France 20 years ago, nearly every weekend on a boat. But I don't." And I go, "Oh, so you don't really use it?" And I think, no, I use it all the time to do lots of other things.
Yeah.
But it's that expectation that unless I'm doing this bit, it doesn't work, if you like. You know what I mean? So, and it's very easy to just go, no, I like to do this, not other people's expectations of it. So I guess that's what you're saying in that as well.
So great. Trust again, isn't it? That's that trust.
Yeah. So Ildiko, what do you find? Because you're dealing with your main kind of client base is kind of, I guess, people over 40.
Yes, and those
so what do you find about
who want to go into business? And I think one of the major issues, especially for women, is that they're finding themselves like in that empty nesters stage, for example, or through the changes, there comes an amount of evaluation and think, hang on a minute, I've been working for X company or in X place for so long. Why am I earning money for somebody else? I could do this for myself. Suddenly there comes a different level of confidence. But then it could be the complete opposite, where people feel like, oh, well, I've always been working for somebody. I can't do it for myself. So then they need that encouragement that, if you're nurturing a dream, that you think that you want to set up a business, it isn't easy, but there's an awful lot of support out there in all kinds of shapes and forms. Take that support and live out your dream, because there's that old cliche, but it is completely true. What is it that you're going to regret on your deathbed? What you haven't done. So if you don't do it now, and it's kind of like, this is where it started for me. When I turned 50, I kind of just announced to the world that I want to do something amazing in this life, because if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? I'm now closer to the end than I was to the beginning. So this is time. And I think that from the business point of view, that sort of changed. And people are on very different sort of platforms in their life. I say, like, I didn't have children, so I didn't go through the empty nester syndrome, but I think a lot of people do that. Like when I went to university quite late. I started at 38, and it was quite interesting that I loved it. Oh my goodness, having 20 years life experience, and then literally going back to feeling like 18 to 21. That was superb. And I would very, very highly recommend it to everyone. Do studies later on, like proper studies. Although, anyway, not going to go into the cost of it and then the pros and cons of actually going to university. That's a different story, but it was absolutely fabulous. But what I found was that I couldn't make friends, really, because it was either the young generation or the much older, like the 60 plus generation. who were indeed living out their dreams and hobbies and went to university to make it happen, or just had the time and the money to self-fund their course. But basically, the sort of 40-something generation was still probably putting their own children through university. So then I found that I didn't have that sort of peer support, or, you know what I mean, like my own age group. So that part was a little bit difficult. But then, of course, very much the title of your podcast, you know, menopause starts to kick in, or perimenopause at least. I mean, for me, it started at 42. So dealing with all of those symptoms, and it's an avalanche of symptoms that we have to deal with, and amazing how many women are not even aware of it. But then dealing with all those physical and emotional and psychological issues probably put women on the back foot in so many ways of, how do I trust myself? How do I go forward with this?
Yeah, that can happen. And I think that kind of almost feels like that's the hidden conversation that we don't have. It's almost like, you know, we often talk about how, you know, a good menopause starts young, you know, because women have been told, you know, they might have been told about periods if they were lucky, but then they're kind of dealing with that. But the feeling is, oh, well, if you've got bad periods, well, it's just something you have to put up with. If you've got these things, it's just something you've got to put up with. So it's not almost like saying, oh, that's happening to you. Maybe that's because your hormones are imbalanced, but if you get them done now, then that actually is a good lifelong basis for you, so that when you come to menopause, you don't have the avalanche of symptoms, but you haven't been really informed about that. Do you know what, actually you could just level them out before? And so, yeah, that is difficult. And then women suddenly think, oh, there must be something wrong with me then. If this is how I'm feeling, if this is what I'm doing, you know, what's going on? I don't feel confident. I don't do this, whatever's going on. And then it's just like, you know, and then you're still thinking, but I'd want to do something different now, you know, because your hormones are telling you, actually, you've done that side of your life, you're coming out the other side, and now you're into your creative and, you know, I always call it the crone phase. People don't seem to like that word. I love that word. But anyway, you kind of go into your wise and your creative phase.
Which I think takes us into the next question pretty much, which is, what can women do at menopause to expand their lives?
To expand their lives rather than
because I think you really hit on it there when you said, I would say youth is wasted on the young. But it's kind of, I also did my degree much later on, and I got so much more out of it because instead of it being dry stuff I learned, it was stuff I could actually relate to the 20 years beforehand. So I think I learned it in a different way. I think it goes in the brain. I do think people should not attend university. They're at least 40, I would say. I think that's a good time to
be honest. I wouldn't let 18-year-olds go to uni. I think people should wait at least a couple of years to really decide what they want to do.
I think it's right, but at menopause we have these other changes. So we've got the change of life experience, the change of roles that we've kind of looked at, the change of our bodies. You know, we're getting older. Suddenly, what we could do or what we look like at 20. So, from your different perspectives, what do you think? That expansion, where do you feel
look at opening it up rather than closing it down?
Well, I think you've talked about learning, haven't you? It's the learning, but I think sometimes, you know, so I've got 3 children working. No, there's not a lot of space for yourself at times, is there, in that scenario of living? And we've moved countries. You know, there's been a lot going on, a lot of transition, a lot of changes, and I think that learning, one way of explaining, is like spending time with yourself and figuring out what do you actually enjoy, what do you like doing. Maybe like take yourself on dates, or, you know, if you enjoy going to exhibitions or reading or learning or studying, and figuring out kind of who are you and what do you enjoy, because sometimes I think that can get a little bit lost in the busyness of everything and that expansion of learning. And it could look like going to university and doing a course, it could look like anything, it could look like reading, it could like learning a new skill, a new form of exercise. So I think
taking up belly dancing, that is mine.
Yeah, exactly. You know, those things that are expanding us through learning, but maybe not formal learning, how we traditionally think of it in that way.
I think you're right. I mean, one thing that you're suggesting, you know, that you've alluded to, is the fact that you've probably spent a lot of years doing stuff you don't want to do. You know, when you're bringing up kids, of course, you know, most of the time people have made a dedicated decision to have kids, but we didn't all decide to spend hours and hours taking them backwards and forwards and taking them to a pizza joint and bringing them back at this time and getting them and all that, you know, all that other stuff that you do. So you spent a lot of time doing that. And I think it's interesting that you're saying, because you've had this as a habit for 20 years, doing what you don't want to do, putting yourself second, it's very much a habit. So you're suggesting you put yourself first.
Break that habit.
Break that
and
habit.
maybe sometimes it's uncomfortable, isn't it? Like going and, you know, maybe you think, well, I've never been done such and such on my own, whatever that is for people, and it feels uncomfortable. But when you do it, it's a way of building confidence and building trust in ourselves, because we stepped outside. You know, it could be just something like going and having lunch in a restaurant on your own, or going to, like, I love to go to London and go visit exhibitions and museums and things like that. And I'll go on my own. And, you know, it can be different for different people, but that's the expansion, isn't it? Going outside, what that I really want to do. I mean, I'm sure Ildiko finds that as well. Like, I really want to do that. If it feels uncomfortable, how do I get from where I am now to it feeling a bit more comfortable? And there's this discomfort to go through, isn't there? Whatever it is, whether it's your business or it personally, things I'd really like to do, like, you know, going to university at a later age, you must be that, well, you know, it's not the norm. How's it going to be? You know, there is that bit of discomfort, but there was something in there in you that said, no, it's something I want to do. You know, and I'm not 18 now, but it doesn't, there's no one that says it has to be at that age. So I think this expansion of learning and getting to know yourself, really, in a way.
I mean, what would you say, Ildiko?
My core message is very much like, you know, going back actually a step about, you know, our bodies. This is indeed the only real home we will ever have.
Yeah.
And that's really quite like, hang on, let's just pause there. If you don't look after your only real home, then the rest doesn't really matter. And part of my core message is that your health is your absolute number one asset in life and in business and in anything. So look after your health. And it's not just going to the gym 3 times a week, it's every area of your health. And I think as we get into this menopausal time of our life, it's even more important. So it's like, you know, physical health, mental health, spiritual, emotional, all of it, intellectual. And then this is where, I mean, okay, I've sort of really dived into all sorts of things since I've turned 50. But what I do find, and I do kind of credit it a little bit to this, scientifically or non-scientifically, but I struggled really badly with brain fog a couple of years ago. There was like at least a year's worth of a period where it was like a permanent feature in my life, where I, like, throughout every single day, I would think of something, and by the time I took a breath to say it, it would be gone. And that's really quite an unpleasant way of living. And that carried on for quite a period of time, as I recall, at least a year. But then I started doing things, and you may or may not know that when you start learning, your brain actually creates new neural pathways. So by learning a zillion new things of setting up a business, like, for example, when I launched a podcast, I decided to do a newsletter. How difficult can it be? Well, 4 days at like 12 hours a day, 2 breakdowns and several cries later, I had my first newsletter campaign going out. I didn't realize quite how difficult it's going to be to create that, the database, which fortunately I kind of already more or less had in a spreadsheet, but then putting it into a program and figuring out how that program works, and then constructing the newsletter. Fortunately, I've built a couple of websites for myself. So I had some ideas, but then some of the icons were the wrong way around. So you have to click on the second icon in order to put in the main things, and then the first icon to put in the knitted little details. So it's like learning all that and learning it fast. These sort of things, I feel, really helped me sort of combat the brain fog, because I engaged my brain to such an extent that it had no choice but to work.
Do you know, the amount of times I've seen women come into my clinic room and they're sort of struggling up sort of a small step, and they're going down, and they sort of, they say, well, you know, I am 58 now, and I know that everything's going to close down. Everything gets slower. And it's almost like they've waited 30 years for the excuse to do nothing. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not talking about people with genuine physical problems or movements, but it's this, what you're talking about is the mental approach. And that mental approach is that into the physical, into the spiritual, into the intellectual. The approach is, my life is expanding. And I've said it before, but my dad, when he was about 75-ish, said, I thought I knew it all. He said, when I was 70, I thought I had all the answers, but now I'm 75, I've learned so much. He said, at 80, it's going to be really interesting. And he said, at 90, and that expansion that you're talking about, your personal, but I think it's a really interesting, especially if we are feeling a bit brain foggy, or our body, you know, as much as I would love it to, it doesn't move like it did when it was 20. It doesn't. I used to be able to do 50 pull-ups without thinking about it. I definitely can't do one now. But it's kind of, it's easy to sort of think, and it is that, as you were saying, Lucy, that try something new. It's like always think new thoughts, or take it on the, you know, on the button to constantly expanding. Our universe is expanding.
I mean, I love that.
We should be.
I love that thing you mentioned about taking yourself on a date, Lucy, because when I did I looked at, you know, I found Julia Cameron and her, you know, Artist Way and Walk in This World, and she talks about take yourself on an artist's date every week, and she has a theme for each week. And it was quite interesting once. I remember doing this, and one of the weeks was looking at spirituality, and it was kind of saying, how do you feel? Are you a spiritual person? What's going on? How do you relate to that? And I think one of the artist's date was, go to a location which you class as spiritual, whatever, and just see what happens when you get there. And it was really interesting because I was away. I happened to be staying in Cardiff, and I was just having that conversation. Where am I going to go? I don't even know. Anyway, I went off for a walk in the park early morning, and what's really quite funny is in Burr Park, they've created a stone circle. So it was almost like, so I was just walking through, where am I going to do? Is it the woods? No, not sure about that. And then I came across this stone circle. I went, I'm going to take that. I think that's a spiritual place, even though it was kind of like it wasn't an ancient one. It was one they put into this park to give it this kind of thing. And I think I'm just going to sit in the stone circle and see what comes up. So it is that that new thing. Taking yourself on a date is great. And even if it's just like, go out for a walk for 20 minutes and just see what happens.
Can I just
carry on?
I was going to say something about the spiritual health in particular, because in my experience, when I mention spiritual health, people tend to come back with two responses, like, I'm not religious, or I am religious, so anyway, linked to religion, or, oh well, I don't like meditation. And spiritual health is really about finding your purpose and aligning yourself with your values, whether it's your life values or your business values, depending on how you look at it, it doesn't matter. So it's so much more than that. And it can be meditation, but it could be anything, like finding a stone circle and connecting with it. And in some level, it must have fitted with your own values. And I think the most important bit of that story is that you found that you took the opportunity, you saw the opportunity that this environment will feed my spiritual health, and you went with it. And I think that is super important, that when an opportunity presents itself, you take it, any tiny little bit it is, but when it connects with us and connects with our values and anything, we take it and we see it.
And I think it's being observant, isn't it? Being observant. Like, so when I'm helping someone explore their personal style, for instance, it's so much wider than clothes. It's like, what art do you like? What nature do you like? What exercise do you like? What attracts you to something? You can go somewhere, someone, can't you? And like, you'll really love something and they won't like it at all. But being observant about, what do I like? What food? Or it can be we're just whole people. Like, you know, so you're saying, Alison, is it the woods? Is it, you know, is it the park? Is it whatever it is? But by being observant, you then say, oh, look, there's a stone circle. Almost like it's been put there on purpose, right?
It had been put there especially for me.
And away the moment,
how many
people
walk past these things? Like, how many often do we walk past things we don't even notice? Because we're, but I think this being consciously observant about what we like and what our preferences are, and then trusting
Yeah.
that, I think is
And
really
trusting
Yeah,
it.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the amount of times I've had people say, I can't meditate because I'm too intelligent to meditate.
Oh. Yeah, because the Buddha was a bit dumb. He was a bit dumb.
But it's one of those. It's sort of that fear of, and some of it's learned behaviour that unless it results in pounds sterling or something better off, whereas actually just that inner self, whatever you want to call it, because when you say to people, "Are you the brain?
Yeah.
Are you the body? Are you, which bit are you?" They always go, "Well, part of me is the brain, and part of me is the body, and part of me is consciousness." And whatever word you use, God, consciousness, higher self, it doesn't, there's something that you know is your essential self. And where that's situated, it doesn't really matter. It can be in the 7 bodies according to the yogic tradition, or it can be whatever chakra. But we know that we are not just this bit or this bit. We are something more. And I think it's a very interesting. You're both sort of in that sort of world of finding that something more.
Yeah.
So,
and that kind of brings us to our final question.
Yes, which is really, we've covered this before. We've kind of gone over this. So it's sort of just a bit of a conclusion. Is what self-help routine should women introduce at this time? And I know we've sort of said it, but it's sort of just a bit of a wrap at the if you were to do it in 2 or 3 sentences, what would be that self-care routine?
Well, I think kindness to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, about ourselves, noticing, again, being observant. And then sometimes we talk to ourselves in a way that we never would talk to somebody else. We say things, don't we? We say things about ourselves, either in our own head or out loud, that we wouldn't say that to somebody else. So I think kindness is something that I would say is a self-care. Give yourself people. Look, I find people find it quite hard to accept compliments. So if someone say, "Oh, you look nice in that," you get this whole story of, "Oh, well, I bought it here," or "I've had it this long," or etc. You get this whole story, and I said, "Can we try that again? You look really great today." "Oh, thank you." Just thank you is enough. But we don't compliment ourselves.
No.
And being ourselves,
I love that, because it's also being kind to ourselves. If you go and you say, "Right, I'm going to go out on a meal by myself, be good," and think, "Oh, I didn't do very well with that," and you think, "No, but you tried it and you didn't like it." So instead of going immediately, "I'm terrible," I think that's such a lovely premise that I think we should wake up and say, "Today I'm going to be kind to myself."
Yeah, brilliant.
I think that's lovely. What about you?
I cannot finish any other way but my own principle. I look after every area of my health. Physical health, which is nutrition, hydration, movement, and rest. Give yourself, pay attention to what you do, what you put through your mouth, move a little bit. Any little is good. Start with 5 minutes a day and then build it when you feel good. Mental health is very much what Lucy was saying. It's your thoughts, because your thoughts drive your emotions drive your decisions, and that fuels the action, and so on. Spiritual health, connect with your values, find yourself, find your purpose. And emotional health, make sure that you surround yourself with people who lift you rather than drain you. And I know it's easier said than done, but it just takes a little bit of effort for us to just have a little think and have a look. Okay, who are the people I'm spending time with, and why am I spending time with them? It becomes very hard when it's friends and family, but still, we've got the choice. And we've got to be strong.
Have fun with it all, isn't it? Have fun with it all. And if you're going to move your body, move in a way that's fun for you. If you're, whatever you're doing, as you're saying, Ildiko, make sure it's fun and you're enjoying it, rather than it being a real drag or I have to. I love running. Some people hate running. What they love, I don't enjoy doing. So it's that.
Absolutely, that is so important. Find what suits you. I can tell you all sorts of things, but if it doesn't suit you, you're never going to take it on board. So the way I work with people is like, okay, let's identify certain things, but then what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Okay, let's find what suits you. And then the fifth area is intellectual health. But then I've recently gone into business, so I'm doing a huge amount of learning. But even if you get to the sort of retirement age and you don't necessarily want to start a university course or a business, then there's still so many ways to keep your mind fresh. So yeah, that's how I would sum up.
Brilliant. And it's going back to that whole self-trust, isn't it, really?
Learn who you are, trust yourself, have fun with it. It's, it's something to, I believe in my work, have fun with it. Wear colour if that's what you like. Wear, and it doesn't have to be seen. It doesn't have to be seen. I've been working with a client recently she's quite quirky, and as I said, you don't have to be able to see it. She has this T-shirt with Wonder Woman on it, and she wore it under a jumper and a jacket for work the other day, and no one could see it, but she knew it was there. It doesn't have to be seen, but if it means something to you and it made her smile, it made her feel powerful, then no one could even see that she had it on, just
I love that.
You use it as a tool to trust yourself, like all the things that Ildiko was saying as well, like, they're just tools, aren't they, to help have us feel good, feel confident, and get to know what we like to do and trust that. Yeah, I think so.
I think so. It's finding that inner self, that real self, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's been really
a brilliant conversation.
Really brilliant conversation. Thank you so much. We're going to put it out in the next month or so.
In the next few weeks, yes.
That's great. And we'll let you know. Thank you so much for joining us.
Brilliant.
Thank you for the invitation.
Really nice to meet you, Ildiko, as well.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
That's good.